Alright, as you probably guess from last time, Luigi was tasked with infiltrating Bowser's, castle or something, and he dressed as a female Koopa, and, he was trying to flirt with Bowser, so he would tell him his military plans and stuff. But, as you guys remember, it went horribly wrong, and Luigi was forced to, remove his cover. His cover was blown, pretty much, because Bowser looked through his plan right when they were, supposed to make out. Do you remember this, Dario?
Yes.
Okay, I will pick up now on Chapter 2. Luigi hadn't been able to sleep, nor had he left his bedroom since returning home from Bowser's Kingdom. For hours he would lie in bed, eyes glazed over the television, but not paying any attention at all. It started with the short giggles around corners, then the awes and the winks in his direction, but what truly locked him into his bedroom was a picture of Luigi dressed in his Koopa outfit on his picnic with Bowser that was plastered on every shop window. It was supposed to be a commemorative photo showing that he too was a hero, like his brother, but Luigi didn't think so. What he did was play with the Koopa King's emotions, taunted him, kissed him even, and when he started to enjoy the moment more than he imagined, his disguise was blown. Luigi felt awful and couldn't bear to see the photo any longer. Mario had been out all week with Princess Peach and Toad at the Seaside Kingdom, disarming Bowser's troops. They had been successful in their tiny army by the looks of the letters flooding their mailbox. In one of the letters in particular, Mario mentioned that the troops were beginning to flee even before they had arrived. Bowser must have realized Luigi's plan all along and called his army back to keep the safety of his minions. Sighing, Luigi turned over on his side, eyes trailing to the window. Was he a hero, or was he the villain all along? The bustling kingdom was quiet without Peach. The Toads ran their businesses like normal, but when she was in the castle they seemed a bit more lively. Luigi wondered what it was like when Bowser left his own kingdom. Was it quiet? Did they await his arrival? His eyes glanced over at the large fields on the horizon and sighed. Was Bowser truly evil? If Luigi had to guess, he was only misunderstood by misguidance from his peers. And sure, maybe he was a fire-breathing monster, but it didn't mean that he didn't have feelings. He didn't think the king was a bad person at all, not after their picnic together. He was gentle. The doorbell dinged, pulling Luigi out of his thoughts. He sat up from bed, clad in his pajamas and hair unkept, and stumbled his way to the door. When he peeked through the peephole, finding a purple toad with a satchel on his side, Luigi sighed. It was the mailman. What on earth did he want? He opened the door, partly shielding his body. Yes? The toad gleamed and dug into his bag. I have a package for Luigi. The toad held out a large box, then placed a clipboard on top. I just need you to sign and I'll be on my way. Luigi furrowed his eyebrows at the box sealed tightly with a pink ribbon. His first thought was Peach. She must have sent him something from the beach. Quickly, he scribbled his name on the clipboard and exchanged it for the box. He shut the door behind him and set the package on the dining table. Strangely enough, it didn't have a return address or a sender. He sighed, wondering what Mario and Peach could have possibly sent, and untied the ribbon. His fingers clasped onto the top and slowly slid it off, and at first glance it was only red tissue paper. As he pulled away the tissue paper, Luigi paused. His eyes were peeled to the contents and he no longer knew how to breathe. It was the picnic supplies they had abandoned at the kingdom. It was everything. The basket, blanket, earrings, it was everything. And holding everything down looked to be something Kamek would own. A wand of some sort with a pink jewel on top. Bowser had sent everything back despite having his heart broken. A lump formed in Luigi's throat as he took everything out, but one by one. The blanket was washed, and the earrings were placed in a tiny plastic bag. Everything seemed to have been placed in the box delicately and cared for with the utmost respect. Luigi slumped into a chair, completely defeated. At that moment, Luigi felt like he was an evil monster, not Bowser. He pulled the basket toward him, opening the top of it, and a gasp left his mouth. A note was placed at the bottom. He quickly snatched it and unfolded it to read. Dear Luigi, or should I say, Kitty Cooper, I've enclosed everything that you and your party left in my kingdom. I must admit, your scheme was pretty revolutionary and definitely left a scar. Hope you all at Mushroom Kingdom are happy. You win. Regards, King Koopa. His hands began to shake toward the end of the letter and he crumbled it into his fist. He had to make it right. What he did was unethical. Was the plan worthy enough to be taught to children? Absolutely not. He threw the paper across the room and stood to his feet. Pacing around, he ran a hand through his hair, gripping at the ends. How was he supposed to make it right? How would he manage to get back to the kingdom to apologize? Mario and Peach had the airship and there was absolutely no way that he'd be able to walk on foot. Then again, would Bowser even let him apologize? He had been captured before and after hurting him, wouldn't the consequences be worse than before? Luigi sighed. It just wasn't worth the risk. You deceived me!
Bowser, listen, I can explain!
I should kill you! Luigi woke with a gasp. It was the first night of many that he was able to fall asleep. His blurry eyes squinted at his clock. 3 in the morning. Groaning, he fell back onto his pillow and stared at the ceiling. The moonlight was leaking into his bedroom, and if he tried to go back to sleep, it would be unsuccessful. Normally on restless nights, his brother would make him a warm glass of tea, and they would watch a movie together until they both fall asleep on the couch. But Mario wasn't here, and he would only laugh at Luigi's nightmares rather than help. Tea sounded lovely, however. He sleepily ruffled out of bed and made his way to the kitchen and brewed up a cup of tea. It was terribly quiet, both inside and outside, making each creak of the walls and floorboards even worse. When his tea was ready, he took it over to the dining room and set it down beside the picnic basket. Luigi sighed into the cup before sipping on the hot liquid. It warmed his insides, calming his head from the nightmare that haunted his every last thought. A letter would help him ease his worries, even if the Toads are reluctant to send mail in that direction. Taking a breath, Luigi quickly went and grabbed a paper and a pen and sat back down at the dining table and began to write.
Dear Bowser, I would like to formally apologize for my actions. I realize that things had gone too far. This didn't just impact our kingdom's relationship, but your emotional well-being too. There could have been a different way to approach this, and I truly am sorry. I did not mean to break your heart, and I hope there's a way for us to reconcile, or possibly forget about this whole commotion. Again, I am very sorry. Sincerely, Luigi.
Luigi finished the letter and folded it in half, placing it into the pocket of his t-shirt. He would have to go to the post office the next day and bargain with the Toads to mail his letter off to Bowser. But he felt better of writing his thoughts down. Taking another sip of his tea, his eyes wandered to the strange-looking staff that Bowser had sent. Why had he sent him a gift? And what was it used for? Hesitantly, he grabbed the staff, and immediately it began to glow. Luigi's eyes widened with shock as electricity flew through his body. It was powerful. He took one swing
that
and the
boss there.
What?
There's a boss there.
Just mark him. He existed here.
What is that? Wait, what is that?
That's a boss. That's a bokoblin, but it's a fat one.
Oh my
This is a
god,
boss.
you could literally walk on his dick.
I wonder if I can kill him. Is he overpowered?
Well, he's like a boss, and he's a black one as well. I think he one-shots you.
Okay, then.
I think
I just want to see how much. I can try how much damage I do to him.
Look,
Wow, great. Amazing, you're almost dead already.
but you did a little bit of damage there. So yeah, we can continue.
Yeah, do you want to know why I so?
He took one swing and the pink jewels started to crack, then filled his entire house with a terrifying white light. His body felt like it was floating and he didn't feel the ground anymore. Of course, the staff wasn't a gift, it was his karma. When the light dimmed and finally went out, Luigi fell to the ground with a thud. He blinked a couple of times and when he took in his surroundings, his body went rigid. Somehow he was no longer in the Mushroom Kingdom, but in Bowser's castle! Not only that, but he was locked in a cage!
So... Actually, I need to stop
So,
now.
you got my package! A deep gruff voice spoke. It is a bit late, however.
I'll
Like to play with toys late at night? What?
Who's...
No,
Someone needs to play now.
keep it. It's time to swap. But you keep reading this story, and I'll play. So you can finish the story.
Then you can do that. I can do this one then.
Luigi turned his head and emerging from the shadows was none other than Bowser. He backed up in the cage, his back colliding with the bars and rocking it ever so slightly above the lava.
But Bowser!
He stammered.
Look, I'm sorry, I really am.
He raised an eyebrow, still approaching Luigi with long strides. Is that so, Kitty Cooper? Do you normally take your enemies on dates, or am I the only one?
Bowser, I didn't mean for it to go that far. You have to believe me.
When the king finally met the cage, separated from the platform, Bowser smirked. You're still in your pajamas! Luigi frowned, feeling his body tremor in fear. Mario didn't know he was in danger. None of the Toads knew he was gone. It was just Bowser and Luigi and he was going to die! Quite frankly, it was their fault too for pressuring him. He didn't want to seduce Bowser. He didn't even want to dress up as a Koopa.
Are you going to kill me?
He
Is this a
asked,
harder one?
barely above a whisper.
What's this guy?
Bowser looked at him, then down to the lava. Not just yet, but I'm going to keep you as my special prisoner for now.
Whoa,
He turned
this
around,
guy's-
finding that he was all alone in the large room. The only cage that hung from the ceiling was his own, and on further investigation, he realized that he was in Bowser's bedroom. Long down the path to his cage was an extremely large mattress with red blankets on top. Alongside it was a simple bedroom decor, but with a poster of Peach over top. Luigi didn't know why, but the poster had made his stomach turn.
Am I
Luigi paused.
in your bedroom?
You are! Bowser told him. He turned around and began walking down the path. Get some sleep, it's late. You'll be dealt with in the morning. Luigi watched as Bowser left him in the cage, exhaling slowly as he slumped down to his feet. He wasn't sure how he was going to get any rest hovering over a fiery pit of lava. The next morning, Luigi woke to his cage swinging side to side. He lifted his head, feeling sick to his stomach, and when he made eye contact with Bowser, he stuck his mouth between the bars and emptied his stomach. It wasn't his finest moment, but motion sickness would be the death of him. Bowser snorted. What? Can't take a little swinging?
Don't you have anything better to do?
Luigi dared, wiping his mouth with his bare arm. The cage came to a halt, and Bowser came face to face with Luigi. His eyebrows knitted together in anger while his mouth wrinkled into a snarl. What's that, green boy? Luigi furrowed his eyebrows. If he was going to die, he wasn't going to leave without a fight. He had to be strong.
Holy shit.
Don't you have a kingdom to run? You're wasting precious time by taunting me.
Suddenly, Bowser kicked the cage and sent Luigi holding on to dear life as he swung vigorously around the pit of lava below. He was afraid that at any moment the chain would come loose and send him to his demise. Yet, he wasn't sure if that was the worst he would have to worry about.
Gay.
At least then his death would come
Lara, welcome to the
fast.
stream.
After the swinging came to a halt and Luigi vomited once more, he looked up at Bowser, who had his arms crossed. His stomach and head hurt. He wanted to go home, and most importantly, he wanted to kick
not
Mario's
quit again,
ass for leaving him to sit at the beach. Got anything else to say? Luigi shook his head and curled into a ball. The letter. Weakly, he pulled out the folded paper and held it out for the king. It had little meaning now that he was stuck in a cage, but it was the thought that counted, right?
Here,
He muttered.
I was going to send this today.
Bowser took the paper from his hands, slowly reading it under his breath. He knew that the letter wouldn't win over the monster, but it was his apology, and he'd rather have his consciousness cleared before the end. His eyes fluttered shut as his stomach gurgled with displeasure. He wanted to puke again, but knew there was nothing left. Bowser began to chuckle. You really think this is going to fix everything? Did I set you free because you feel sorry? Listen here, Greenie. I'm going to make sure the last thing you see in your pathetic life is my face laughing at you. When Luigi didn't respond, Bowser stomped away from the platform. Moments later, he would hear the door slam shut. Here, drink this! Luigi opened his eyes hours later, finding a glass of fizzing water in front of him. As he blinked away his tired eyes, finding Bowser walking away once more. Thank you, he murmured before taking a sip. The carbonation burned his throat as tears prickled his eyes. His gurgling stomach didn't seem to like it either after it went down. Luigi sat up afterward, finding that Bowser had gone to his bed and began reading a book. Had it been a full day already? Luigi couldn't tell. He spent most of the day sick and sleeping. He sat in silence, watching as the king flipped pages of his book. Luigi couldn't quite tell what kind of book it was, only that it was captivating Bowser's attention by the way his fingers tightened against the cover. Luigi was a bit jealous. He wished he had something to pass the time with. You failed. Looking down from his cage, the lava didn't seem menacing anymore. It was just hot. Just like the last time he had been imprisoned, the worst part about hanging above lava was the heat that traveled upward. He really didn't know how Bowser's minions were easily adaptable to all the fire and lava spewing around the castle. Stop screaming over there! It's creating too much racket! Bowser grumbled, flipping another page.
What are you reading?
Bowser spared a glance in Luigi's direction, but went back to his book. What's it to you? Luigi rolled his eyes. He didn't know that he was back in Brooklyn.
It looks like a good book. It is, give me a title. You can't let me die without knowing what got your attention.
Sighing, Bowser closed it shut. From Luigi's position, he could tell it was a dark blue cover with a gold outline. Pride and Prejudice. Happy? King Koopa was reading a romance book. Luigi began to grin and he crossed his arms in front of his chest. He was watching Bowser flip pages quickly to read one of the most famous romance books in the world. What are you smirking about? Bowser growled. Luigi raised his arms in defense.
I just didn't see you as the type of guy to enjoy a good love story. That's all.
Shut it, Greenie!
Oh shit, that's a guardian.
The days had passed quickly and Luigi still hung above the lava. It had officially been the longest time he had been stuck in a cage without any sort of rescue. He wondered if the Toads noticed he was missing or if the mail carrier shoved letters from pen-up days. Was Mario finally back from the Seaside Kingdom? Luigi didn't know. Telling time was hard when the only view he got was of lava and rock. I'm gonna make myself a tea again.
Anyway, when that new upgrade there, we have 4 balls.
I'll be right back.
Because I just didn't want to.
I mean, if the guy is seeing you, you can only survive with your shield. If the shield can't break, we can shoot back his lasers, actually.
Almost.
Anyway, did you know you can't get one-shotted for a physical attack?
Why not?
It's like a fallback. A physical attack can't insta-kill you. You always have like 1/4 of your heart.
Wow.
But a laser is killing you because it's element. It's fire.
Damn.
That's why I survived this big guy. No, normally I would be dead. When do you want to go there? It's really far away.
Well, I am going there now. Oh no.
Oh, there's a guardian again. Well, you can win if you shoot his laser back. What do you... Well, we have fairies, maybe... Or just ignore him. Unless he's seeing you. Oh shit. Look, Taro, a guardian is looking for Dario.
Wow.
He can also one-shot you. And to this guy does... Anyway, this guy does like 15 hearts damage without defense.
Wow.
So he must have a base power of 60 attack.
At least Bowser fed him still. It seemed that being his personal prisoner had its perks, as dinner service usually followed after Bowser left his room for the day. And to his surprise, it wasn't much on the plate. A variety of greens and slab of meat was placed on his tray most days. Some days it was poorly made pasta, but good Italian food was hard to find all across the kingdom. Rather than food... Luigi... Shut the fuck up, PM, or else I'll have to mute you again.
Why is it so loud? I didn't say anything, man.
But you did like... Rather than food, Luigi... Shut the fuck up!
You didn't say you keep talking, oh man.
Rather than food, Luigi had found it easier to talk to King Koopa. Whether it was teasing him for his strange habits, or filling the air with small talk, Luigi didn't find it so terrible that he couldn't spit the words out. In fact, he seemed to enjoy talking with him throughout the hours.
The rustle of the bag is super loud.
What haunted him in the cage was the picnic that happened weeks ago. He couldn't help but think of Bowser's lips pressed against his, then his jaw, and finally his legs. Luigi had a lot of time to imagine the possibilities if he hadn't deceived Bowser, or if he really was Kitty Koopa. Would Bowser have kissed his throbbing center too? Luigi bit down on his lip, looking around at the bedroom. Bowser had left early that morning without a word, leaving Luigi to himself. He palmed at himself in his grey boxers. He hadn't much time to himself, and hadn't expressed his sexual desires after being captured. He couldn't particularly masturbate with Bowser watching him from his bed. His fingers looped around the waistband of his underwear, slowly revealing his growing cock. Just a quick session would tie him over for the next week. A shaky sigh left his lips when he finally gripped around himself. Luigi pumped himself in swift motions, careful to not let his voice rise above the whisper. The room had a terrible problem with echoing, and Luigi didn't want to embarrass himself to the rest of the castle. He squeezed his eyes shut, mind wandering to the picnic once more. There were so many possibilities and little satisfaction. He wondered what Bowser's mouth would feel like around him. The king was large in size, so his cock would have been engulfed in his tongue. Luigi whimpered, sliding a thumb over the tip. Luigi never once thought about being fucked by a man, nonetheless a monster. But after exploring his thoughts and getting himself worked up, he couldn't picture it with anyone else but Bowser. Which was dangerous, because if his hands were tiny compared to Bowser's, the size of the monster's cock had to be worse. But his body ached for it terribly. He wanted to be filled, to be kissed all over, and more importantly, to be able to come. Like that, I guess. Luigi could feel his abdomen warming as his high was nearing close. Short breaths were leaving his lips, disguising his whimpers and whines that he wished Bowser could hear. He wanted him. He wanted Bowser to hold him, fuck him, and take advantage of his body. In more In more ways than one, Luigi was his prisoner. The door swung open to the bedroom, and Luigi had been caught red-handed. With his hand still wrapped around his cock and his eyes wide with horror, he hurriedly tried to cover himself up. However, Bowser saw him. As soon as he walked into the door, he immediately saw what Luigi had been doing. "You!" Bowser growled, stomping his way towards Luigi. Luigi's face had gone red as a tomato and was still painfully hard in his boxers. He didn't know what to say. His vision was still blurry and he watched Bowser with terrible intrusive thoughts. When Bowser reached the cage, his eyes glared at Luigi's, then traveled down to his tight boxers. Luigi's breath hitched in the back of his throat. What was the punishment for pleasing himself as a prisoner? He was still human after all. "Were you touching yourself?" Bowser challenged. If Luigi hadn't been blushing before, he surely was then.
Yes,
He stammered.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to.
Without another word, Bowser took hold of the bars of the cage and bent them open. Luigi looked at him in horror. The king was about to kill him once and for all. His large hand wrapped around Luigi's torso, pulling him out of the cage that he had spent long hours in, and the cool breeze was enough to send shivers down his spine. Bowser was taking him away from the cage, and Luigi couldn't help but wonder what type of death he had been waiting for him. Was it the guillotine? Did Kamek have a special spell for him? If it wasn't lava, then why had he been hung over the pit for days? Then his body collided with the bed he had seen Bowser in every night. The snores that echoed from the blankets, and the mutters and grumbles in his sleep that Luigi had seen. He was in it. And he looked up at Bowser. He could see himself unsheathing himself from his shell, and in an instant, his large, hard cock sprung out.
Bowser!
He whispered. Was he dreaming? The king crawled over to him, hovering over his small, fragile body. "Do you understand what you do to me, Luigi? Do you have any idea how long I've stared at you in that cage, wanting to take your body and pleasure my cock?" Luigi swallowed back. Had they been dreaming the same dream?
I've wanted it too. What took so long?
"Shut up!" Bowser growled. His claw ran down Luigi's boxers, then ripped the material right off and exposed the smaller grove. "What were you thinking about when you were pleasuring yourself?" He could feel Bowser's large fingers running up and down his cock. His head fell back and he sucked in a breath.
You. I was thinking about you.
Good answer! Bowser crawled backward, and before Luigi knew it, his large mouth was wrapped around his small cock. He was right. It was all tongue in his mouth, and Luigi didn't stand a chance. His fingertips gripped the bed sheets, whimpering and whining as Bowser took advance of his erection. The king left his hard on with a pop, leaving Luigi throbbing and red. "I shouldn't even let you come. Our last meeting left me with blue balls, and I had to go back to the castle to release myself."
You were going to kill me!
Luigi screamed underneath him. Snorting, Bowser reached forward and started pressing hot kisses to his neck and jaw. "I wasn't going to kill you. Yes, you deceived me. But didn't you feel it? The spark we had. I should have taken you then and there, penis or not." Luigi gasped. He wanted to curse Mario for coming to his rescue.
I wanted you to finish the job. You had me incredibly hard underneath that dress.
"You looked so pretty, kitty," Bowser teased. "You should wear dresses more often." Maybe he would, and without underwear to shield himself. He could feel Bowser's cock grazing his ass, and he was afraid. How would it fit inside? Did he have a chance? His back arched, feeling the large tip slide against him.
You're really big.
Luigi whined.
How will it fit?
Bowser raised himself from Luigi's neck, eyes glazed with lust. He reached over to his side table, digging through the drawer until he pulled out a large bottle of lube. Of course, he came prepared. How long had Bowser been planning to fuck him? He then took the bottle to his cock, slathering it with lube and giving himself a couple of strokes. His large cock then rested on Luigi's thigh while he took the bottle further down. This will be cold, Bowser told him. The contents of the bottle then squirted over his hole, and before he knew it, a finger was prodding at his hole. Just his finger felt like a dick. Perhaps maybe in the normal world, but this was Bowser's world. His finger pushed into his hole, a whine screeching from his mouth as Bowser worked him. He knew that he needed to be prepped for his cock, and he couldn't take it all at once. He needed to be fingered, and he wasn't complaining. After a few minutes of Bowser fingering him, he added a second finger. The stretch burned, but was completely necessary. His cock bounced with every movement, and he was on fire with ecstasy. I think you're ready, Bowser muttered. Luigi looked at him, vision blurry with pleasure. He reached his hands forward and grabbed onto his shell, pulling him closer until their mouths met. Their kiss was dirty, tongues swirling around each other's, and it masked the moment when Bowser began pushing his tip inside this hole. It was larger than his fingers, and Luigi cried out into the kiss. Bowser held him down and kissed his mouth all over until the tip broke through. He was incredibly large, and with the shaft pushing into him slowly with care, Luigi could hardly keep up. Once Bowser's balls met his cheeks, his cock couldn't hold on anymore. Cum shot out of his throbbing dick, painting both of their stomachs as he moaned. Then Bowser began to shift his hips, slowly at first, and he grunted, but as Luigi's cock began to harden once more, the pace quickened. There they lay on the bed, fucking like lovers as they kissed and worked each other to their thighs. Luigi had a lot of thoughts, but wanting to escape was none of them. He wanted to stay, to keep being fucked like a doll, and letting Bowser love him in his own personal way. Luigi worked his cock while the entire bed shook with Bowser's thrusts. He was incredibly full and his prostate was rubbing raw with satisfaction. When Bowser's pace slowed and Luigi could feel his balls tightening against his ass, he didn't have time to react. Bowser was filling him with his cum. He throbbed inside of Luigi, spilling every last drop in him until his body twitched and relaxed on top of the green plumber. It wasn't long after that Luigi came to.
Can you use a bomb or something?
Luigi! Where have you been? Everyone was so worried!
Peach cried, running towards him. He had walked into the Mushroom Kingdom, dressed in clothing from Bowser's Kingdom, and pulled Princess Peach into a hug. She did help him and Bowser finally hooked up after all. The Toads began to circle them outside as the reunion happened. Luigi? Mario gasped. His brother parted the crowd and joined in on the hug. When we came home, the Toads had told me you were missing for days and they couldn't find you. Then, when I went home, I saw the picnic supplies on the table. Are you okay? He pulled away from the hug and nodded. You're doing great, kitty. Now take them into the castle and let our plan take action. The gruff voice spoke from the earrings. Grinning, Luigi hooked an arm around them both.
I have a lot of news to report about Bowser's castle. Let's discuss this in the throne room.
The end.
What?
We know the end or
That's the end.
part 1.
Yeah.
But it looks like there's more.
Yeah, well, at the end the road's kind of reserved, you know. First of all was, you know, Luigi infiltrating Bowser's castle, and now it's basically Luigi infiltrating the Mushroom Kingdom, and Bowser, you know, telling him everything from the earrings.
You need to hit the thing again, Dario. Something.
But of course they needed to fuck.
Oh, Dario's droning.
And now there's 24 comments, holy shit. You know, a couple of days ago there were only 3 comments. What? Now it's 29 suddenly, oh my